Hello.
Hello.
Hello and welcome back
With Kelly and Brittany.
on the Smut Swap. We're going to do things a little tad bit different today.
We're a little pressed
A
for
little pressed for
time.
time. So there will be no synopsis. There will be no trigger warnings. Here's the cover. Done and dusted. Rebel Blue Ranch, book one.
Who's it by?
Lyla Sage.
And again, like we said in our last episode, Lyla Sage. You wrote a book.
Lila.
Oh, my
Lyla
bad.
Sage.
Already
Riley,
forgot
whatever
your
the
name.
fuck your name is.
We do not judge. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. So,
Yeah, and if you watch my TikTok, my personal TikTok, you'll already know that this was kind of a highly rated book for me. So I'm not here to shit on this. I'm like obsessed with cowboy romance.
cowboy, take me away.
Fly this girl as high as you can. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna just jump in. But
All right.
first, what are you reading?
What am I reading?
Yeah.
I am reading 3 books right now. So
Ooh.
I have Lights Out, which is our Smut Clurb book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 7 chapters in.
Nice.
I giggled a lot
Mm.
this last episode or this last chapter. So I don't know where you're at, but I can't wait. I'm reading Nobility, which was written by my author. We're gonna leave it at that.
My
God,
author.
why do I always do this? I forget how to speak English.
My Kelly. Oh, my
I am
Kelly.
reading Nobility, which was written by my neighbor,
Mhm.
who is an author.
There you go. We've done it. Nailed it down.
And then I'm also, I think that's it actually, because I just finished Crying in H Mart.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm reading,
Oh, The Last Love Note.
which was a recommendation for me by
Yes.
Emma Gray.
Love it so far.
I cried when I read that book. I'm reading The Temporary Roomie by Sarah Adams. If you follow my YouTube, I love Sarah Adams. She wrote Practice Makes Perfect, When in Rome, book number 2. And I'm also reading Lights Out, but I am only on chapter 2 because I finished a book today and I don't remember what it was called. Anyway,
Or the author.
Julie, it starts with an I. It's Nigerian, so it's in my brain, but it's a brand new release. It literally released yesterday.
Maybe we'll list it below.
Yeah, if you care that
Later.
much. Done and dusted. This is my little notebook where all of my notes are. We open, oh my God, with Clementine Ryder, aka Emmy, breaking up with her boyfriend via post-it note left on the fridge and fleeing 300 miles to her hometown and BFF Teddy.
Wow, dramatic.
Oh, hello.
I texted Adam and I said, we're recording. He says, I hear you smutting it up.
Is he home?
Yes, he is.
Anyways, we are smutting it up.
Smutting it right up.
Oh, he put the antler down here. Anyway, Teddy absolutely insists we have to go out tonight. There's only one bar in this one horse town. Meadowlark, Wyoming is what the town is called. The bar is called the Devil's Boot. And Emmy is certain they'll know every single patron if they end up there. She makes it clear that she'd rather be at home with her wine and watching Sweet Home Alabama, but Teddy's like, that's been your life every time I've called you for the last month, so we're going out.
Give Reese Witherspoon a rest.
God, she deserves it. She's out here running her book club. So she's like, okay, Emmy, it's cool. You can sulk on the couch with your cheese and Diet Coke, but now we have to fancy up a little bit for the Devil's Boot.
The Devil's Boot.
The girls
High
are,
class.
high class. The girls are like, oh my God, who's going to pay for beverages all night? Teddy's like, don't you worry about it. The men are going to be lining up because Emmy is she's from a beloved bloodline in the town. And she's also made a name for herself as a barrel racer.
Oh my gosh.
So she's like well known.
Who won't want to buy her a drink?
Everybody loves the Ryder family. The pair cross the threshold of the Devil's Boot, and Emmy makes a beeline for her favorite table, because of course she has a favorite table.
Of course.
It's a high top in the corner with a neon sign of a cowboy riding a beer bottle.
Aw.
You know?
Classy.
Classy. They agree on clear liquor, which leads Teddy to decide, we're going to be drinking tequila tonight.
Oh God.
Emmy's like, oh my God. Hey, ease me in. I need a tequila soda with extra lime. No shots. Teddy's getting the drinks. This guy makes his way over. We learn that his name is Kenny. He is one of Emmy's old homecoming dates. And wouldn't you know it, he's also the quarterback of the football team. Because why wouldn't he be?
Why wouldn't he be? How old is Our Lady?
Great question. She is an adult.
Okay.
I don't remember how old she is. I think she's 26 because I think that her brother's 30. The middle brother is 30 and the oldest brother's 34. So I think that there was like 4 years between each of them.
Okay. So Kenny was a quarterback?
Oh, yeah.
Or
yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Or he's a high schooler just hanging out.
I'm sorry.
Up
No.
cougars.
No. Kenny has also graduated from high school, we presume.
He's of legal age, most likely.
He is an adult. So they're catching up and he's like, oh, why aren't you a part of the women's rodeo? And she's like, well, I miss the ranch. So here I am. I'm home. He's like, oh, well, we should see more of each other. And then all of a sudden, the band that was playing when they walk in screeches to a halt.
Uh-oh.
And they're playing a new song called Oh My Darling Clementine. And
Aw.
she is immediately like, what the fuck?
Oh, gosh.
Pissed off.
It hit a nerve.
There's only 2 people in this town who would dare. One of them is her older brother, Gus, the oldest brother. And the other, oh, by the way, sorry, Gus, nowhere in the state of Wyoming at this point. So really, there's only one option.
Wow.
She just refers to this person as him. Him is Luke Brooks. And we're going to talk about Luke right now. The Devil's Boot is Luke's bar. Luke is Gus's best friend. And as soon as Luke saw Emmy walk into the bar, he's like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And then he's like, hang on a second. Hello? That's my best friend's little sister.
Wow, look at her.
Pump the brakes. The bartender's like, hey man, I need some change. He's like yelling at him. So Luke has to go to the office for that. And as he does, he sees that Emmy and Kenny are talking. And he's like, I got to do something. We got to put a stop to this. He takes a shot in the office, grabs the change, makes his move.
Ooh, liquid courage.
He immediately notices her reaction when the music changes. He picks up that when he first saw her, she was missing the normal fire she has, but it's back now because he pushed her buttons with that song. He's like,
I know how to rile this little biatch up.
He's like getting her hot and bothered, and mostly just bothered. We cut over to Emmy. Emmy's like, God, furious at him. We hear all about how, as a girl, she had a crush on Luke, and his stupid. She references him as stupid at least 57 times. Hot self.
Stupid hot self.
Yeah, his stupid hot self. She talks about him being stupid and hot like 57 times in like the rest of the chapter. And I was just like, oh my God, okay, we get it.
You like make up your mind.
Got it. Is he stupid or is he hot? He can't be both.
Well,
Luke tells her, you're welcome for saving you from Kenny. And she's like, mind your own goddamn business. And he tells her what happens in his bar is his business. And she's always been his business because her family is his business.
She's like, you're not my brother.
You're not my dad. You're not my real dad. She's really shocked to learn that he's the owner of the bar, but keeps trying to like steamroll over him. Like, no. He tells her once again to tell Kenny to keep his hands off or they're both getting kicked out. And he walks away to give the bartender the change. He's going to kick her and Kenny out of the bar if Kenny doesn't keep his hands to himself.
Got it.
Okay.
Mature.
Very
mature.
We're all adults here. Luke wakes up the next morning and admits he should not have had as many shots as he had last night because he has regrets. He also realizes he's late. He remembers Emmy leaving with Kenny and his last shot of the evening being at that point. He points out to us that Kenny Wyatt is not throw your head back laughing funny like Emmy demonstrated last night. As he's getting ready for his day, his phone rings. It's Gus. And Luke's like, oh my fucking God, I'm so guilty.
Oh no.
Because immediately, you have to feel guilty for ogling his little sister last night. Apparently, Gus needs Luke to go and get his daughter. Her name is Riley from her mom's house. And she's also the child of a one-night stand.
Oof.
Scandal.
Drama.
Luke is like, hey, why can't Emmy go get her? And Gus is like, she's in Denver, you dipshit. And Luke's like, yeah, no, she definitely housed a buttload of tequila at my bar last night. And then he realizes that he has inadvertently thrown Emmy under the bus. But he's like, okay, yeah, I'll go pick up Riley for you. It's no big deal. I'm going to face the wrath of Emmy when she picks up Riley later from me.
Oh no.
They wrap up their call. Gus is like, hey, well, make sure that you keep an eye on Emmy while I'm away in Idaho. And Emmy's then waking up to her phone buzzing incessantly.
Uh-oh.
Lovely on the hangover that she's suffering from.
We love that when we're hungover. It's great.
Who do you think was calling her?
Kenny?
No. Gus has called her no less than 7 times.
Oh.
She immediately panics, thinking, oh my God, it's the worst. And really, he's just calling to yell at her that she better not be in Kenny Wyatt's bed.
Oh no.
She tells him she's with Teddy, not that that's any of your business, and his resounding sigh indicates he believes otherwise.
Gus is a little protective.
He's not too happy that she's with Teddy. Gus thinks Teddy's a bad influence. Now, just to be clear, Teddy is a woman. Her name is Theodora.
Okay.
Okay, we call her Teddy.
Got it. Oh, I got you this sweatshirt.
You did.
Oh, I just realized that.
I
know that looks familiar.
I intentionally wore this. I've been here for more than an hour.
It's been that type of day.
Yeah.
I told my boss today that my brain was not working.
Yeah.
And I think he was so annoyed with me with all my questions. He was just like, okay.
He just was like,
and I was like, why aren't you laughing? Laugh at me.
You're like, I'm funny.
I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll fuck off. Moving on.
Quickly, rapidly move on. He is like, hey, can you please go get Riley from her writing lessons since you're back in town? Emmy's like, fine. He tells her she can keep Riley he tells her Luke can keep Riley, and she's surprised he allows his daughter to be babysat by Luke, which again sets Gus off on a lecture about how Luke is a damn good uncle, and he will be keeping an eye on Riley and Emmy until the Ryder men are back in town. Emmy hangs up the phone and sees her dad has already texted her that he is happy that she's home because like any good man, like any good dad, he's like, hey, baby girl, welcome home.
Where had she been before this?
She was in Denver. She lived in Denver. She had a boyfriend in Denver, lived in Denver, was barrel racing in Denver.
And then she quit to come home.
Which we've been to Denver. I didn't realize that there was a huge rodeo presence there.
Wow.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Leave a comment below.
Yeah, we would love to know.
I'm sure. Why not? It's kind of like a small... big town.
Yeah, it really was. We walked everywhere.
Yes, it was fine.
It was really fun.
It was great.
Anyway, Emmy's in Hangover City when she pulls up to the ranch later that morning. She's reaching across her seat to grab her phone when a hand bangs down on the hood of her car, which startles her so much that she hits her head on the roof.
Oh.
It's just Wes, middle brother, who is ecstatic to see Emmy. She
silly Wes
describes him as a golden retriever. And he is the caretaker of the family, which is interesting for the middle child. That made me swoon because I'm also the caretaker. And we love to see ourselves.
I'm also the middle child, so I love it as well.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I read Wes's book and I liked it more than this one.
Uh-oh.
Scandal. He tells her, hey, you're not going to be able to use your room because dad has taken up yoga and like eating vegetables, and he's decided to make your room the yoga studio. She's like, that's fine. I'm going to take the small cabin that's by the big house for the seclusion, but it's also close to the big house, so I'll have privacy but still be close to the family. Wes is like,
rich.
Wes is like, that's cool. I have to get back out before the ranch hands riot, and she decides to take a quad out to get Riley from her lessons. They're also talking about Emmy's horse Maple, who is going to need a stall in the stables because, of course, there's room right next to, her old horse whose name is Moonshine. Emmy's like, why haven't you asked me why I'm home yet? And Wes is like, it doesn't matter. I'm just glad that you're here. And I was just like, oh my God, I love him.
Aww.
He's my favorite.
This does sound cute so far.
So Emmy's making her way out to the corral where the lessons are taking place, and she overhears a group of moms talking about a fine ass.
Uh-oh.
So she checks and immediately knows by the hair that it's Brooks. She does not call Luke for the majority of this book. He goes by Brooks to everybody.
Okay. Got it.
So
I love that name.
I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. I mean, it's cute.
It's cute.
We're going to bounce back and forth between Luke and Brooks, but she calls him Brooks for like the vast majority of this book.
Got it.
She's like, cool, now's my time to observe him like a fucking creep. And she does for like a minute before Riley realizes her auntie is there.
Aw.
And then she's otherwise engaged because auntie!
We love our aunties.
We do. Luke smiles at her while she's hugging Riley. And she tells us it's not like how he normally looks at her. He indulges Riley for like just a minute, and then he's like, hey, come on, it's time to get back because the lesson's not over. Well, it is over. We have to go untack the ponies now. We have to teach responsibility for these children, too, while they're riding. You can't just ride the horse. You have to do all the work that goes with it.
I don't know what that means, but it's fine.
That means take off all of the things.
Ah.
Like the saddle and like brush them down. You know, all the stuff that goes
Sure.
with. Sure.
Okay.
Well, now you do.
Got it.
From my understanding, I don't know anything about horses.
Nothing.
This time, he does appear annoyed when he looks at Emmy, and as he's leading the children away, they're both like staring at each other. I also forgot to mention that Emmy was surprised to see that Brooks was teaching the lesson, and even more surprised that all the kids were alive.
He has somehow successfully not killed anyone.
And they're all like under the age of 6. So we're bumping over to Luke's POV on the reunion, and our boy is so smitten. But otherwise, you know, he's in denial because this is supposed to be a slow burn.
Oh, okay.
So he's like...
And plus she's also like untouchable,
Yeah.
being his best friend's
little
sister.
Which he reminds us of every single time we are in his POV.
You're like, I get it.
My brother in Christ, I get it. God. So he's finished up with everything that he is needed at the ranch for the day, and he's heading back to his truck. He sees Emmy in some booty shorts hauling her boxes to the cabin, and he offers his big, strong man muscles, which she scoffs at, because why wouldn't we scoff at his big, fat man muscles?
Are you sure you can get that? Gotta troll him. We must troll. All the time.
You have to troll men all the time.
Yes.
He tells her 2 times the people have to work, dog. Just let me help. Play it cool. Like, we're cool. So they get all the boxes moved in. He's like, what the fuck is in these? Rocks? And she's kind of teasing him about not knowing how to read because obviously it's books in the boxes. They're bantering back and forth, and he definitely checks her ass out multiple times as she's bending down to unpack boxes. There is something very important for us to know about Emmy. She is super clumsy. So as she's walking around a box, she trips and falls, and Luke tries to catch her, but he fails. She ends up scraping up her arm pretty badly. She sees the blood, freaks out, turns super pale, and keeps being like, I don't do blood. I don't do blood.
Oh, no.
So Luke's got to save the day with the first aid kit. He patches homegirl up and then kind of like rubs her leg to comfort her from the fall, you know, not like anything else. It's normal.
Not anything else.
It's totally normal. Then they're like staring into each other's eyes. He knows that she wants him to kiss her, and he almost does. But then Wes comes back from the big house with fresh bedding for Emmy, which breaks the trance. And Luke's like, "Goddamn good thing he announced himself, or or he would have walked in on me kissing his sister, and then I'd be dead."
Dead meat.
Wes tells Emmy that dinner will be done soon, and Luke says he better head back to the bar. Or over to the bar. Emmy seems kind of disappointed, which Luke's like, noted. Wes is suspicious because Wes is a man and Wes knows men.
Plus, that's his little sister, too.
True.
So they sound like a protective
They are.
little family.
I can't imagine. She's the youngest. I can't imagine. Like, oh, 2 older brothers. Gross. Emmy also has like some sort of trauma from a riding accident. We don't know what happened. It happened about a month ago. That's all that we know. She hasn't ridden a horse since the accident, and even thinking about it kind of causes her to have a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
I think that the fall is what triggered me to take note that she has trauma. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I always do this. Teddy barrels into the cabin because our girl hasn't been answering her texts. And then she barrels in bearing gifts. Teddy's love language is gift giving. She knows that Wes gave Emmy like scratchy bedding, and so she brought her some better buttery soft bedding because she knows her.
Aw, how sweet.
This is where we learn a little bit more about Emmy having some sensory issues. For example, red meat is a no-go, which was a huge deal breaker for her now ex-boyfriend, Stockton. or something equally weird. I don't remember what his name
Because
was.
she wouldn't eat beef?
Yeah.
Oh, grow up.
I know. I mean, it
Come
is kind of,
on.
she did grow up on a cattle ranch, so it is kind of weird, but like, but you know
Weird,
what?
but we all have our
Live
thing.
your life, girl. Don't eat that beef. It's
Yeah,
fine.
we all have our thing.
This dude
Fine.
would insist on her just trying it, no matter how many times she said no, and I fucking hated that. But anyway, I
Mm.
digress. Just as Emmy is about to spill the beans about how she wanted Luke to kiss her, um, she's talking to Teddy. Gus shows up, and he and Teddy have like this verbal smackdown to which Emmy has to referee. It's really cute. They're definitely going to be a spinoff. They are a spinoff. I checked. It's book 3.
FYI.
FYI.
Spoiler
I
alert.
can't contain myself. Gus is back from Idaho, which means Emmy's dad is also back, and breakfast is ready at the big house. It's constantly referenced as the big house, capital B, capital H, the big house.
Okay.
Emmy
Giving
and
me like Yellowstone vibes. Have you ever watched
no,
Yellowstone?
Eric told me that he wants to watch that, and I was like, okay, well, you have fun with that. I'll be reading.
It's not bad.
I
It
think
just
that-
gets a little
I
redundant
think
after a
that he
while.
would like it because we were watching Schitt's Creek and he didn't like it, and I was like, one day he'll grow up.
Yeah, one day. One day.
Jesus Christ. So Emmy and Gus are taking their leave, and as they walk into the big house, Emmy once again walks smack into a solid chest. The solid chest of one
Klutz.
Luke Brooks, who regards her
You said chest, and I'm
Coolly.
thinking like a chest of drawers.
chest. No, like a chest.
Or like a treasure chest.
like man boobs. So he regards her coolly. She repays him with a similar attitude and then embraces her father thoroughly. Her dad tries to invite her trail riding, and she seems really non-committal about it. More hints of trauma because our girl loved trail riding with her dad.
Aw.
Wes finally shows up because apparently it's lunchtime for him, even though it's breakfast for everyone else. Ranch hours, you know.
Jesus.
He wakes up at like 4 a.m. They sit down to eat, and Emmy takes her usual seat, forgetting she's going to be sitting directly across from Luke until it's too late.
Oh, no.
So Luke is on stall duty the next morning, and he's, as he's mucking the stalls out, shoveling that shit out, he's thinking of Emmy, you know, because nothing like shoveling shit to think about your woman too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's realizing she hasn't really left the cabin, and all her riding gear hasn't really moved. It's been the same place, and he's like, well, that's suspicious. As he's thinking about her, here she comes, walking into the stable.
Aw.
He asks her if she's planning on going riding. She says yes, but he notices she looks a little cagey. He watches as she takes Maple from her stall and starts brushing her, taking note of how tightly drawn she seems. Tells us Emmy knows better than anyone to not work with a horse when your anxiety's high. And as he's watching her, he's noticing that she's quite literally shaking. He walks up to her. He's like, Emmy, Emmy, quietly calling her name, because you can't startle her because that will startle the horse.
Yeah.
She finally turns around because he places his hand over hers, and he sees that she's crying and having difficulty breathing, which quickly evolves into a full-on panic attack.
Oof.
He's like, what do you need? And she's like, I just need you to squeeze me like really hard. So he's hugging her. Then somehow they're sitting, and he's walking her through these breathing exercises. You can tell that she's feeling really embarrassed when he's done, or when it's all done. And she tells him, I haven't ridden my horse since I had this really bad accident where I was thrown really far into a fence about a month ago. He's like, that's okay. I can teach you how to ride again. And she's like, we aren't friends. And he's like, so why don't we just start right now? Like, we can be friends right now. And she's like, fine, I guess. And then, yeah, we're moving on. I highlighted something. Apparently, I didn't copy and paste it into my notes.
Oh. It's fine.
Maybe
next time.
Maybe next time. Sorry, we're time pressed. Luke's patience with Emmy and the riding lessons is like super incredible. They tack up the horses together daily, and they just walk them around the corral.
Just
and
get
then
used to being around them.
Right, and then they walk them back. They like gear them up like they're gonna ride, and then they walk them out, walk them around the corral a little bit, walk them back in, take all the stuff off of them, brush them down again. He like literally never is like, hey, get back up on the horse, just try it. She is really surprised and decides to pick her dad's brain one morning over breakfast about Luke because Luke has spent a lot of time with their family. So he tells her that Luke is very similar to his father in a sense, but also different because he actually shows up for people that he cares about no matter what. And Emmy's then remembering a time where he had to pick her up from the rodeo because everyone else was otherwise obligated. And he showed up with whatever girl he was currently screwing in the driver's seat because he couldn't drive due to having a few too many beers.
Ooh.
No triple D over here.
If you're new here, that's a designated drunk driver.
Drink Wisconsinably. Her dad is really suspicious as to why Emmy's asking about Luke, but she's like, it's no big deal, playing it down.
I'm just curious.
Just curious. I just wondered. Later, she's making her way down to the stables for her lesson and sees Brooks standing outside with his signature muscle tee. That is an old t-shirt that he cut the sleeves off of.
How redneck of him.
Zachary Allen, is that you? That's my brother. He does that to all of his shirts. He's got the backward baseball cap on. Nails like hanging out of his mouth.
Oh gosh.
He's fixing something. And I was just like, oh my God. The backward baseball cap does something to me.
How stereotypical of you.
I know. You know what? I want them to look like they're going to be mean to me, but not actually be mean to me. Yeah. Like when Eric wears his hat backwards, I'm like, oh my God, get over here. Emmy's like, God damn, he's hot as hell right now. And then she's like, God damn, he's my brother's best friend. Anyway, he asks her if she's ready to mount today. Good God.
She's like, the worst?
Mount what? She's like, okay, brushing past the joke. Yes, I am ready to mount today.
Let's get this
mounted
started.
They go inside, and she's confused about why Maple isn't in her stall. And he tells her, hey, today I think that you should ride Moonshine because Moonshine's a beginner horse because she's so old.
Oh, little Moonshine.
And she's like, doy, why didn't I think of that? While they're preparing to mount, Brooks asks what they should cover today. And she goes for the jugular and is like, tell me about your first kiss.
What?
He's like, interesting question, Ryder.
Right out of left field.
Right out of left field. But he's like, I'll tell you anyway. Apparently, Luke slept with the mother of his first kiss. And then I put in parentheses, our smut slut of the week.
Luke Brooks.
Luke Brooks. They tack up the horses, walk them out of the corral, or to the corral. Emmy's on the verge of panicking, but Brooks is like, we're cool, we're cool. He keeps talking to her. He's like, do you need me to help you mount? And she nods. He places his hands on her waist. She's like, that's not how you help someone get on a horse, but whatever. And then he guides her through step by step before leaning down and telling her she doesn't need him and to get on the horse.
Get your ass on that horse.
Hey, girl, you don't need me. Just get on that horse. So she does. They walk slowly around the corral a few rounds and then dismount, and they're both genuinely happy that Emmy overcame this minor hurdle. She thanks him and hugs him, and as she pulls back, he tucks her hair behind her ear, runs his finger along her bottom lip, but he does not kiss her. And she's like, God damn it, I wanted him to.
Ugh, I'd be like, wash your damn hands before you touch my mouth. You had your nasty digits all over the horses.
We don't know where those things have been.
That's me and my OCD.
Luke's over at the Devil's Boot Friday morning when Teddy comes waltzing in at 10 a.m. He's confused at first, but then the confrontation begins. She starts asking him what the hell is going on with him and Emmy, and he tries to play it off like they're just friends. Teddy clearly doesn't believe him and starts asking why he's giving lessons to a professional barrel racer. He tells her she'll have to ask Emmy and promises he's not messing with Emmy. She leaves, but threatens to cut his dick off and feed it to him if he hurts Emmy. And you know what? Teddy, you and Elizabeth are the same fucking person. Emmy wakes up to her phone ringing because we're always waking up to our phone ringing.
Yeah.
It's Wendy from the WNRA. For those of you who are new here, don't worry. That's the Women's National Rodeo Association.
Oh, thank God. I got worried for 2.5 seconds.
I would have forgotten too if I hadn't put it in my notes.
Thank God.
She's calling to ask if Emmy's going to be joining them when the rodeo comes to Meadowlark, which is next month. And Emmy's like, what the fuck? Like, you've known me for so long. This is the first time that you've reached out to me since my accident. And now you're asking me to join the rodeo.
Wow.
I mean, I can't really, like, blame her. She's
right,
like,
I'd be mad too.
She's like,
Now
yo, girl,
you're
I'll
gone?
think about it, but probably not.
I'll see if
now
I
you
can
call?
pencil you in.
Let me see if I can pencil you into my busy schedule on this fucking ranch. And then she's like, okay, time to get started with my day after wrapping up her phone call. Her day consists of helping Wes with a project. The project is going over to the old big house, which
Oh, there's
Wes,
an old one?
there is. It's
Is it like decrepit?
no, it's not. So the
Fallen
old,
into a
okay, this is
canyon?
lore. This is lore that we don't get in book one. But I'm
Oh,
going to
no.
tell you anyway because I know. The old big house
No
is
secret is safe.
spoiler. The old big house is the house that Amos, which is their dad, lived in growing up. But he built a new big house because he did not have good memories in the old big house. So he wanted to raise his family in a different big house, but he didn't want to destroy the old big house because it's part of the ranch's history.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
so
a lot.
I know.
It's fine, though.
It's fine. You're gonna pretend like you didn't hear this when you read Swift and Saddled.
You didn't hear it from me.
You didn't hear it from me. So Wes wants to turn the old big house into a guest ranch.
Oh.
Emmy's like, did Dad and Gus give you the go-ahead for that? And Wes is like, no, but I want to start working on things because it's going up for vote amongst the family later this week. The family votes on every major decision.
That's
And I was
cute.
like, that's really cute. They end up going into the old big house to kind of gather what needs to be done to bring it up to code to get the guest ranch up and running. As they're leaving, Wes asks Emmy if she's going to be competing when the rodeo's in town, and she answers him honestly, I don't know. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life anymore. And in true Big Brother fashion, Wes is like, you're going to figure it out. And Emmy then goes about her chores. She keeps thinking about how she wishes Brooks was there for her to talk to while she's going about her chores.
Aw.
It's before dawn when Luke wakes up and he can't go back to sleep, so he's like, okay, time to go for a run. He normally runs the trail behind his house that leads him to the Devil's Boot, and on the run, he's thinking about how he wants to gather all these pieces of Emmy and like place them together to form this broader picture of her, while also reminiscing about different aspects of their past together. For example, he talks about how she and Teddy would always finagle their way into the parties that they weren't even invited to, and how he would always be the person to tell Emmy to go home, and how Emmy would always fight back on that front. By the time he reaches the Devil's Boot, Luke has decided he wants to show her pieces of him that are different than what she may have previously perceived him as.
See, I love this. Like, running's like free therapy. I don't know if you ever used to run, but...
No, I've always had bad knees.
Oh, well, I used to run all the time, and it's definitely like you think out all the things.
Yeah.
I love that for him.
Me too. So he's like, okay, she has always perceived Luke as the person you call for a good time, not a long time. But with Emmy, he wants it to be different. His hang up, of course, you guessed it, is that Emmy's Gus's little sister.
Ah.
Oh, God. And he doesn't want to ruin his friendship with Gus, but he's decided that regardless of the friendship, he has to get to know Emmy on a deeper level and kind of decides, I'm going to place the ball in her court to decide what's going to happen next in terms of, are they just friends or will they be something more?
He's got to shoot his shot.
You got to shoot your shot, even if it ruins your friendship.
Yeah.
Emmy wakes to the sound of somebody pounding on her cabin door, which startles her awake because she set an alarm for 6 a.m., so she knows that it's earlier than that because it would have gone off. She goes to answer the door, and guess who's standing there?
Lukey Pookie?
Lukey Pookie is standing outside and looks a little alarmed because Emmy is literally only wearing this thin, like, tank top and her underwear.
Oh, no.
She slams the door in his face, grabs an oversized flannel, puts it on before she opens the door again. When she does, Luke tells her they're not going to go have riding lessons today because he wants to take her somewhere and that she should bring a swimsuit. She finds a swimsuit in her messy, messy, messy room and puts on some denim shorts and a crop top before opening the door and is like, what kind of shoes do I have to wear? He's like, your boots are fine. So she turns around, bends over to put them on. And when she turns around, guess what?
He's
Luke's
pitching a tent.
staring at the place where her ass would have been.
Oh, no.
When he finally looks at her, he's blushing. And she's like, oh my God, he is human.
Oh,
So
he's looking at my ass.
Look at my ass again. Luke is an ass man.
Who knew?
Who knew? So they make their way over to his truck where he opens the door for her.
Aw.
Oh, by the way, Wes opens the door for his girl every single time, even if she's driving. And I was like, she's like, who the fuck is this gentleman when he opens the door? In the truck, he's like, here's a cup of coffee for you. And it's exactly how she likes it, with lots of cream, no sugar. And he got her a breakfast burrito with just veggies, because he knows that she doesn't eat bacon.
Is she vegetarian?
No. I don't think so.
Very dramatic. No,
I don't think so. I'm sorry. That was you watched in real time me answering before I thought about the answer to the question, and I just answered anyway.
I was like, why do you seem embarrassed?
So Luke has a double bacon burrito, and she's like, of course, nothing's changed. She's really touched by the coffee gesture and tells him thank you by opening his burrito so that he can start eating on the drive to wherever they're going. He surprises her by taking her to this little like spring up in the mountains. She's like, how many people have you brought up here? And he tells her, you're the first person I've brought here. It's like the meadow in Twilight.
Does he glisten?
He takes his shirt off and he just sparkles. He's like,
you can't outrun me.
He's like, yeah, you're the first person I brought here. She's like, you haven't even brought Gus here? And he's like, no, not even Gus. Wow. And then he takes his shirt off and Emmy's like, oh, fuck, having this crisis. He throws his shirt at her. She's like, it smells like laundry and spearmint.
Oh, God.
And then he's like, your turn. And she's like, what? And he's like, we're here to swim. And she's like, oh, my God, duh.
Oh, yeah, I forgot while I was gaping at your barrel chest.
Your barrel chest. She takes off her clothes and he's like, staring at her intensely.
She's like, sir.
And then he takes her hand and they take off running towards the pool of water.
Aww.
Right before they make it in, he's like, fair warning, it's going to be cold as fuck. And spoiler alert, he's right.
Oh, no.
When they break the surface of the water after jumping in, he pulls her toward him because he's still holding her hand, and she instinctively wraps her legs around his waist.
Oh, my God.
She thanks him for bringing her here, noting that her legs are still wrapped around his waist, and they're absolutely towing the line. He asks her if she's planning on racing when the rodeo's in town, and she's like, stop reading the paper. Then she admits that she kind of would like to race. So Luke is the first person she's admitted she'd like to race.
Aw.
She doesn't know how she's going to be able to do it, though, because she still has trauma. They then spend a long time talking about how Emmy was diagnosed with ADHD and how she stopped taking her meds recently, finally hitting a wall and being diagnosed, and how everything has now impacted her life. It felt really like a moment of connection because Emmy also asks Luke to tell her about himself and when he changed. And he tells her it was about 5 years ago when Riley was born. And that's when his dad died and he inherited the bar from his dad. There were a bunch of other culminating events that led to his change. We're not going to get into them.
A lot.
The root cause of Luke becoming a different person is he got into a bar fight that resulted in him having to spend time in jail. Amos, that is the head of the Ryder family, the dad, he's the one who ended up bailing Luke out and telling him that he has two options. He can be himself or he can be his father, but he cannot be both. And I was like, real dad shit right there.
Yeah.
That was the wake-up call for Luke. He ends up disentangling Emmy's legs from his waist, and she makes a joke about his nose looking fucked up because it was broken during that bar fight. He's like, you're a smartass. And she's like, absolutely not. Never in a million years could that be me. And then she splashes him in the face with water. Then they're spending a bunch of time swimming, talking the whole time. And then her stomach's like, hey, I'm hungry.
Oh, I was like, you got a poo-poo?
Yeah, got a poo-poo.
You got a poo-poo?
And that's when they end their date. As they're walking back to the truck, Brooks laces their fingers together and she's like, that's it. I'm kissing this man and it is happening today.
Oof.
Back at the truck, Luke's lost in his thoughts. He opens the door for Emmy again, but before she can climb in, he stops her by hooking his finger through her belt loop. And I was like, holy.
Oh, my word.
She turns to him and like fists his shirt in her hand. And then like he's kind of shocked, but he's not moving. She's a little embarrassed. And he's like, hell no. So she goes to climb into the truck. He pulls her back by the belt loop, grabs her by the throat, and then he kisses her.
Oh.
And I was like,
The throat grab.
Oh my God, the throat grab. Listen, something about it. Do I want it in real life? Not really.
Probably not.
Probably not. But in books, I'm like, oh my God, get her. Grab her throat.
Hair.
Rip her dress. It's like Jerry Springer. Somehow they managed to get inside the truck and she's laying flat out on the bench seat with him on top of her. At this point, I screamed really loud, are they about to fuck on the seat of the truck like teenagers?
Oh my God.
As it turns out, Emmy is all about getting that D in the truck because mid makeout, Luke looks at her and he's like, "Tell me what you want, Emmy." And she's like, "I want you to fuck me in this truck." Oh my God. He does like a little dirty talking to her and it's getting really steamy. And then Emmy's phone rings.
Of course.
And it's fucking Gus again. And I'm like, Gus, what do you want? They're about to get on. Leave them alone. Anyway, she misses the call. And then Luke's phone starts ringing, and Emmy's like, "You have to answer it. Gus is gonna come looking for us if you don't answer your phone." So he does. Gus is looking specifically for Emmy, and he's like, "Have you seen her?" While Luke is talking to Gus, sorry. Oh God, the cock block from Gus. Does it remind you of the dog? Remember when I got really mad at the dog and I was like rage walking him back?
Yes, and I thought I was a fast walker. And I'm like basically galloping to keep up with you.
My sister-in-law's dog ran away and we went and found him and I talked shit to him the whole time I was walking him back and I was power walking.
I didn't know anyone could move that fast whilst walking.
And lecturing a dog.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck, I'm out of breath. I'm sweating.
Sorry. I was on a mission.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Gus is looking for Emmy specifically and asks Luke if he's seen her. While Luke's talking to Gus, Emmy's copping a feel the whole time.
Oh, no.
Because why wouldn't she? Luke is like glaring daggers at her.
Such a brother.
He's like, "God, I'm on the phone with Gus. He's going to fucking find out." He tells Gus, Emmy's probably with Teddy. And Gus is like, "Cool, I'll just call her again later." He gets off the phone and he's like, "Okay, I've got to make it up to her." He internally promises to take his time with her. It should be noted that Luke calls Emmy sugar frequently in this book. In this chapter, he tells her, "Anything you want, sugar." And I think it's pertinent. And I don't know why I missed bringing it up earlier. So he calls her sugar. That's his pet name for her.
I don't like it.
And you know what? I didn't mind it. But if Eric called me that, it would be on site.
On site.
Madam baby to you.
Madam baby.
So, meanwhile, back at the ranch, Emmy's like, "Fucking Teddy, I gotta tell you everything, girl." Teddy's like, "Hell yeah. I'm Team Brooks."
Get that D.
Get that D, girl. In true girl fashion, they dissect the whole interaction, and Teddy fully encourages Emmy to go after him. Oh, they're on the phone. Okay. They wrap up the call with promises to meet on Friday because it's Teddy's birthday, and they have to have birthday bevies.
More tequila?
More tequila. Then Gus and Riley burst into the cabin. Gus wants to know where she was earlier, and she tells him she was simply spending some time alone. Riley tells her they should spend more time together, and Emmy's like, "Hey, girlfriend, you got yourself a deal. Auntie and Riley time, I'm down." Gus mentions family dinner and voting on the guest ranch and tells Emmy to behave herself because Luke will be there. He doesn't realize just how loaded the statement is.
Oh, no.
Family dinner night, and everyone is there, including Teddy, much to Gus's chagrin. Luke has a hard time deciding what to wear, but ultimately settles on a black t-shirt, his least faded jeans, and no hat, which does not escape Teddy's notice. Dinner goes off without a hitch, despite Emmy and Luke shooting googly eyes at each other the whole time.
Oh, no.
The family unanimously decides to vote yes on the guest ranch, and Amos tells Wes he owes a proposal with a budget to each family member ASAP. Wes is, of course, over the moon about this. After dinner, everyone's vibing out in the living room. Gus eventually takes Riley to their cabin at 9:30. Amos tells Wes to help Teddy take the leftovers to her car, and then directs Luke to make sure Emmy gets home safely.
Oh, no.
Scandal.
He's like, I'll be
making sure that she gets home safely. Don't you worry, big dog. At Emmy's cabin, she asks if he's just messing with her because she's Gus's sister, and he tells her it's not like that, and he can't pinpoint when it changed, but he likes her. Then he kisses her forehead.
Oh.
She tells him she also likes him, just as she's shutting her door. As he's making his way back to the big house, he's like, "Abso-fucking-lutely not." Turns back around to Emmy's cabin. This entire chapter, we're on chapter 16, by the way, was entirely dedicated to them going to Pound Town.
Pound Town.
Raw, for the record.
Raw.
He does the throat grab thing again, too. She confesses that she never arrives when a man goes down on her, but somehow manages with Luke. He
Of
makes her
course.
arrive 3 times.
Wow.
And then once more in the shower after they're done.
Aw.
There was a moment in this book, in this chapter, where he is going down on her, and she describes him like thrusting into the mattress as he's doing it. And I was like,
Told me this.
I was just like, not the visual that I was looking for, but hopefully somebody out there enjoyed that. I felt so embarrassed. Really, really, really embarrassing.
We're back.
We're back.
We had to depart to pick up Macy Grace from softball.
Yeah, and it was a both of us evolution. It required both of us because
Always.
we're both her mom.
Yes.
Okay, so after they boom,
Boom, boom.
he spends the night, right? So the next morning, Emmy wakes up and Luke is like still in her bed and they're fooling around again. And then there's a knock on the door.
On her bedroom door?
The cabin.
Oh, and it's Gus.
It's not Gus this time. It's not Gus. It is Wes.
Aw.
He's been calling Emmy because some of the ranch hands caught this stomach bug and he's like, I need help mending the fence. And she's like, okay, I'll help you, but I'm not getting roped into anything else because it's Teddy's birthday tonight. And he's like, okay, that's cool. I'm going to head to the stables to see if Luke will also help. In his haste to get into Emmy's pants, he left his truck up at the big house. So everyone thinks that Luke is already on hand to like do work for the day.
He's like there somewhere.
He's somewhere. They just haven't seen him. He doesn't want to be a secret to Emmy, and he doesn't want to keep her a secret part of his life because he really cares about her. But Emmy's like, I need time. And he's like, fine. He like reluctantly agrees to this. They do all that stuff. And then Emmy is over at Teddy's house for the pre-birthday beverages dinner with Teddy and her dad.
Oh.
This is a tradition that Emmy and Teddy have had since college. They make dinner together. Tonight, they're making some sort of pasta with chicken cutlets, vodka sauce. Teddy immediately calls out Emmy for her glow, and Hank, that's Teddy's dad, is like, spare me from any Luke Brooks and Emmy dalliances. Emmy glares at Teddy, who swears she didn't tell him. He just happened to overhear them on the phone.
Oh, no.
And one thing
His
about
dad?
Teddy's dad.
Okay.
And one thing about Teddy's dad is he is the town's biggest gossip.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah,
we love
brother.
a man who spreads the tea, spills the tea.
Spreads it and
Spreads
dumps it all over.
spills
Whatever.
it, same thing.
It's all the same. Emmy's glaring at Teddy and she's like, yeah, he just overheard us on the phone. And then there's this really touching moment where Hank presents Teddy with her favorite cookies. He's super sick, hasn't made them in a long time. She's like misty-eyed. Am I making up that he's in a wheelchair? I might be. I might just be confusing this with like Twilight. My bad.
Was the dad in Twilight in a wheelchair?
Jacob's dad was in a wheelchair.
Okay.
Get with
It's been
it,
a
Kelly.
while. It's
You
been
know what?
a long, long while.
Get with it. Get with it. Twilight's the reason I am the way that I am.
Okay.
Okay. It was the start.
Huh?
It was the start of my love for romance.
Oh.
Okay. We got there.
I love it.
Yeah. So they go to Teddy's room. They're getting ready for their night out at the Devil's Boot because where else are we going? Nowhere. Just the Devil's Boot.
Only place in town.
Emmy's like, hey, it's kind of weird that you made me a dress for your birthday. And Teddy's like, you need to open it before I combust. Like, Teddy's a fashion designer. Nothing makes her happier than like having Emmy wear what she's made.
Same.
She runs a business. Yeah.
I didn't make it.
Her sister did.
Shout out to Ash if you're watching.
If you are, we're sorry.
We're doing our best.
We're trying our best. Teddy studied fashion design and business at school, and now she runs a boutique. So making clothes for Emmy is like her second love language. They have a heart-to-heart about Luke, and Emmy is like, I know I shouldn't keep him a secret, but I also feel like I deserve to explore the newness of the relationship without everyone in my family knowing what's going on. And I'm like, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
Then they have their little like rom-com montage moment where they're getting ready. Teddy says that the real gift of the evening will be watching Luke Brooks fall to his knees the moment he sees Emmy.
Oh, this dress must be like scandalous.
Scandalous. It's red. That's all that I remember. And Fancy was her name. So they're at the bar and Emmy's wearing the dress And Luke catches the flash of this red color out of the corner of his eye from where he's tending the bar, and he's 100% down for Emmy in that moment. He has this slight little bit of nervousness that ends up making the group of ladies that Emmy and Teddy are with lemon drop shots.
Yum.
Yum. And he's like, it's because it's Teddy's birthday. There's no other reason. Here are the shots that I made for the birthday girl. Teddy's like, yeah, sure. That's why you're over here, not for Emmy. Emmy's like, you're just going to ignore her. Thank you so much. Then they do the shots. And then Luke spends the rest of the evening super distracted while he's trying to work. A little while later, he sees this dude who's wearing a double denim outfit with Emmy.
Canadian
tuxedo over here. He sees that Emmy's feeling like a little uncomfortable with this dude because he's a little touchy-feely. She seems
not
to be,
on my watch.
She seems to be handling it like pretty well though, like fending for herself, but he's like, absolutely not. The man places his hand on Emmy's leg and Luke is like, no, he can't handle that. He literally can't handle that. He goes over there and he's like, hey, remove your hand. And Emmy's like, glaring at him like, I got this, dog. Like, you can't do this right now.
I'm a big girl.
You see this dress? I'm a big girl. I don't need you to tell me or him what to do. Oh, the guy tells Luke she doesn't care. It doesn't matter what she wants. I'm doing this. And Luke is like, take your fucking hand off of her leg right now. Dude does not do it. And so what does Luke do? Punches him in the face and says, get on my bar. Like any rational human being would do, as one does.
That's fine.
It's totally normal. Emmy's like, you can't just punch people when they don't listen to you. And he's like, it's a little too late. And then he scoops her up over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes and carries her back to the office. And they're like bickering back and forth as he's carrying her. And she ends up providing for him, if you will. Use your imagination. Luke is literally living his wildest fantasies at this point.
Oh my gosh.
And then they do
I
it.
thought they were going to argue.
I know, me too. But then they do it on top
She just gives him head?
Yeah, and then they do it on top of his desk.
Oh, okay. It's fine.
Okay, the next morning, Emmy and her father are up running errands. They have to go to the local Tractor Supply to pick up a part that Amos needs. Throughout this whole chapter, we're kind of getting to see how Amy and her father are like connected with each other. You really see how deeply he loves his children, especially Emmy. He tells her that he wants her to stay working on the ranch if she wants to, but that's entirely up to her. He says that if she wants to stay working on the ranch, she can be the person in charge of the riding lessons. Emmy's like, that's what Luke does. And Amos is like, Luke, huh? Because at this point, she stopped calling him Brooks, and now he's Luke.
Oh, it's getting serious.
And Dad's like,
I'm onto you,
and
little girl.
Emmy's like, oh no, I slipped up. I only ever call him Brooks around my family. Amos is like, it's fine. We go on. There's nothing that happens on this ranch that I don't know about. And she's like, fuck, man.
As a true ranch man always says.
You know what? I've watched The Ranch on Netflix. I'm sure that Sam Elliott said that sometime.
I tried watching that and I just could not get into it.
You know, I don't feel like you missed anything.
Yeah, sometimes those sitcoms, I'm like, not for me.
At the Tractor Supply store, Emmy runs into Kenny again. Remember Kenny, the quarterback? Mm-hmm. Conveniently forgetting that Kenny's father owns the Tractor Supply store. Kenny asks her out to dinner, and she tells him she can't because she's seeing somebody, which kind of causes her some internal panic because she's announced out loud now at this point that she's seeing somebody.
And on small town USA, word travels real freaking fast.
Yeah, it does. By the time she gets to the front of the store, Amos probably already knows. Kenny's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It was really nice to see you, though. Happy for you, all that jazz. Kenny's like a nice guy. Amos and Emmy then go to the coffee shop, which is called The Bean.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, me too. I would not be able to say that with a straight face.
The Bean.
And that's where they talk about Emmy's mom. You're probably wondering where Emmy's mom has been this whole time.
I have not.
The answer is she's dead.
Oh my gosh.
Emmy's mom died in a freak horse accident when Emmy was a baby. So Emmy's literally never known her mom.
Aw.
The other boys do. The big boys, they know the mom. She ends up feeling a little misty after she's talked to her dad about like how much her dad loved her mom and everything. It's kind of sad. Amos's hope for Emmy is that she'll find whatever she's looking for, whether it's in her hometown or not, which kind of draws a parallel to how like he and the mom met. The mom left her hometown, ended up in Meadowlark. That's how she met Amos. It was very sweet.
Aww.
So Emmy's ending up spending more and more time with Luke, mostly at his house, so that her family doesn't catch on to their dirty little secret.
No more truck parked
in front of the big house.
Yeah.
He is full of surprises, including the fact that he has a bed frame, nice bedding, and more than one pillow.
That is a surprise when that happens. I remember my first, well, not my first date with Adam, obviously, but first time going to his house,
Mhm.
and he had furniture and a bedroom set and pillows, and I'm like, this is a man.
You're like, oh my God, boys, step aside. There's a real man here. It's a real man in town.
Exactly.
Eric also had furniture. And for those of you who don't know, Eric was 24 years old when I met him. So for him to have furniture, I was like, there's no mattress on the floor. Like, I thought I was going to roll up in here and it would be like a futon that they shared.
Meanwhile, Adam was in his mid-30s.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we started dating.
Well, at least he
More
has
than that,
that.
actually.
She's like, hey, it's really nice that you have all these things. And he's like, you need to raise the bar.
So, ladies, if you're listening,
Raise the bar. God, if he has furniture, that's the bare minimum. Then they do like this little slow dance in the kitchen to this Randy Travis song on the radio while they're cleaning up after dinner one night. And I was just like,
did it say what song?
no, just Randy Travis. And I was
Okay.
like, ah. God. Okay, one day when she's going out to do her chores, she finds Luke in the stables and he's like, hey, come with me. She's like, I can't. I have to do my chores. He's like, it's already taken care of. Come on, let's go.
Let's skedaddle.
We're skedaddling. He takes her out to the corral, and there are 2 horses out there, Friday and Maple, and they are ready to be ridden.
Mhm.
She's like, oh my God, I can't believe he's done all this. Like, did you even sleep? Like, how have you done this? And he's like, let's go. We're going to go ride on this trail. And so they do.
Mount up.
Mount up. He takes Friday up to a full gallop, and Emmy, without even thinking, just follows on her horse
Aw.
on Maple. They make it almost to the old big house, and they have this little area that's set up and fenced in. And inside the fenced in area, she can see that there are 3 barrels set up in this like triangle pattern. And I was like, well, what the hell is that? And he's like, hey, just so you know, I measured it out, and it is in regulation for barrel racing. And I set this up all last night because you need to practice. And Emmy's like, you did all this for me?
Oh,
And he's like, Sugar, you deserve to go out on your own terms.
sugar.
You deserve to go out on your own terms. Just because you got dusted doesn't mean you're done.
And there's,
For clarity, to be dusted is to be thrown off of your horse.
and that's where the title comes in, ladies and gents.
Done and dusted.
Done and
And
dusted.
she's not done. She's been dusted, but she is
ain't
not.
done yet.
So he makes his way out to the barrel racing course, and then he finds Emmy out there finishing up with her practice. She tells him she's doing okay, but she hasn't gotten any like races under 20 seconds, which is what she's shooting for. He tells her practice is going to help, obviously, and then they are doing a little smoochy smooch because they have to go back to the house, and he doesn't want anybody to see, even though he's like, I'm so tired of being your secret.
Oh, let me be free.
I know. He's like, just let me kiss you in front of your family. God damn, dude. He doesn't want to have anybody see them touching each other, but he also can't go to his shift at the bar without touching her. So, things are starting to heat up, and then Luke's phone rings and he answers it without even looking. And wouldn't you know it, here's his mom calling.
Oh.
His mom, who has not been mentioned once in this book. She's like, hey, my husband was supposed to come home from his truck route a few days ago. He never did. Husband is Luke's stepdad, who is a big fat meanie. One thing about Luke and his mom is they don't talk. And that's because his stepdad, John, is a righteous asshole who doesn't allow them to. I was like, okay, at this point, we're at 80%. And like, are we going to have a third act breakup? What's going to happen? Emmy and Luke end up going over to Luke's mom's house. They tidy up a bit because it's like a shithole in there. And Luke catches up with her. Then Luke's half-brother, JJ, comes home. And he's pissed off that Luke is there. None of Luke's family is very happy that Emmy's there with Luke. JJ asks Luke how Gus feels about Luke fucking his little sister, which is everyone's cue to leave.
Wow.
Emmy stands up for Luke in that moment and tells JJ he better watch how he speaks to Luke, or someone's going to let slip to the sheriff that he's selling more than just weed out of his trailer.
Ooh, shots fired.
Shots fired. I suspect a meth lab just from every other connotation in this book. Yeah.
Come on.
In the truck, Luke kisses Emmy fiercely, and she's like, what's that about? And he's like, no one's ever stood up for me like that. Luke thanks for coming with him to his mom's house, and she tells him she would go anywhere with him. And then she tells us she means that too.
And I mean it.
And I mean it. Ladies, on business. I mean that. That's the tea. It's race day. Emmy's in panic mode. Not full on panicking, but enough that her hands are like shaking to the point where Teddy's like, I'm going to help you put your number on, girl. It's okay.
Yeah, adrenaline is high.
Teddy's like, why do you seem so edgy? What's wrong? Emmy finally tells her about being thrown from the horse in June. She thinks Teddy's going to reprimand her about why she came home. Instead, Teddy looks at her and says, I'm sorry you've been carrying that by yourself.
Aww.
And I was like, Kelly! Somebody, Kelly! And then I said, and I almost cried because damned if Teddy isn't Emmy's Kelly.
Oh.
Emmy tells Emmy tells Teddy she needs her to do something for her. Teddy's like, anything, babe. And Emmy's like, I need you to bring me Luke. He helps calm her down from her panic light. Then they call for the barrel racers, and Luke tells her that he's proud of her no matter what. If she races today or if she decides not to, she's like, oh, buddy, I'm racing today. She walks off. He kisses her on the forehead one more time, though, for love.
I ask if there was a forehead
kiss.
I can't stop talking in a country accent, and I'm sorry.
I know. You know what? It's Wyoming.
It's Wyoming, and they're barrel racing.
They're barrel racing. And then he turns around to Teddy, who's like, once again...
Teddy's like, excuse me,
sir. And she's like, you're in love with her. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to deny it.
She's like, I'm done and I'm dusted.
I'm done and dusted. She's like, you should tell her. She loves you too. You know that, right? And then I, again, annotated something. Don't know what it is because I didn't copy it. So Teddy and Luke make their way back to the Ryder family. Luke's hopeful that no one's going to notice that he didn't bring back the beers he was waiting on. But there's no such luck because Wes immediately is like, where's the beer? And Luke's like, the line was long. And Wes was like, so? And Luke's like, well, I don't like you that much. Oh. And then they wait for the barrel racing to begin.
Dang.
They're all like brothers. Like, even though Luke is Gus's best friend, with Wes and Gus not being that far apart in age, they all ended up like
brothers.
Out. Yes. They were all like always together. They're waiting for the barrel racing to begin. And it's Emmy's turn. There are several racers who come in at 15.8 seconds. And Emmy's fastest time practicing so far has been like 16 odd seconds. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I don't think that I'm going to, no one thinks that she's going to even place. But when Emmy races this time, her time is 14.9, which breaks her own personal record and therefore wins her the barrel race. The Ryder family make their way down to congratulate Emmy. Teddy's leading the group. When Emmy's in eye shot, she starts running toward them. Just kidding. She's running directly towards Luke. And then they kiss in front of her entire family. And she's like, I don't care. Luke starts to tell her that he's in love with her. But fucking Gus interrupts them quickly, like, what the fuck? And then all hell breaks loose. He tells Emmy to shut up as she's trying to explain. And Luke tells him he can be mad, but he can't talk to Emmy like that. And then, God, I locked it. Oh my God.
What happened?
Oh no, what happened? So he can be mad, but he can't talk to Emmy like that. So Gus punches him in the face.
Oh, okay. So here's the drama.
So Wes finally gets a hold of Gus, and Teddy starts telling him off about how he needs to get it together before Riley comes down and sees him punch her uncle in the face. Gus is beside himself, unable to believe that everyone is okay with this. Amos tells Emmy to go home with Teddy. Give Gus a few days to cool off, and he'll take care of Luke. Emmy's reluctant to leave Luke, but Teddy tells her the whole town is basically waiting for Gus to show up and punch him again, and it's the best for her dad to be there for Luke. He literally hauled off and slammed that man in the face.
Damn.
And I was like, holy shit.
Wow. How angry. Does he know something about Luke that he's worried?
For his sister?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Luke is the smut slut of the week. So
you're right.
He's the one that you call for a good time, not a long time. Emmy and Luke decide to spend some time apart so that Gus can cool down. Luke is like, oh my God, I miss Emmy so fucking much. He talks about living their lives adjacent for so long and how now he can't imagine living without her. They're texting. Someone knocks on the door. Luke's confused because no one ever looks for him at his house. Mm-hmm. They either look for him at the Devil's Boot or Rebel Blue. That's the ranch, just so you all are aware.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome. As it turns out, it's Gus. Luke's like, what are you doing here?
He's peeking through the...
He's like, you here to black my other eye? And Gus is like, I'm here to talk about Emmy. Luke tells Gus how long he and Emmy have been together, and Gus is clearly not happy about it. But Luke tells him he was going to tell Gus soon. Emmy just needed time to feel ready to talk about their relationship with the public. Mm-hmm. This makes Gus a little less mad. And then he essentially gives Luke his blessing because he tells Luke exactly where on the ranch he can find Emmy to go tell her that he loves her.
Aww.
And I'm like, Gus... Fuck you, but you might have redeemed yourself a little. Emmy's out in the pasture, making sure no heifers get out when she thinks she hears Luke calling her name. She's not surprised, though, because she's been thinking about him a lot. And she's like, oh, whatever. I've been thinking about him so much. Now I'm just hearing his voice.
Mm-hmm.
But then she hears it again and she turns and sees this man riding toward her. It's Luke. He's riding at her so fast. He jumped off the horse 15 feet from her, lands on his feet and runs the rest of the way toward her. And then she's like, oh my God, he was in such a rush to come here. He didn't even saddle the horse up. He rode the horse bareback for like so many miles. And she's like, oh my God, what's wrong? And he's like,
Who died?
She's like, is it Riley? What happened? And he's like, I just came here to tell you that I love you and you're it for me. And she cries a little. And she's like,
so
I have something to
sweet.
tell you too. Well, he's like, don't cry. You know I hate it when you cry. And she's like, I gotta tell you something too. He's too busy trying to kiss her to listen. So he says later, she pushes away from him and tells him that she loves him too. And he's it for her. And there they are, smooching again.
Oh, little smoochy smooches.
And then there's an epilogue.
Oh,
Because that's the end. Like he tells her that he loves her, and that's the end.
so sweet.
The epilogue is they basically just do it again. And then Luke gives her a key to move in. And then he tells her that he loves her one more time.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh.
And then stuff that I highlighted. Dusted. Western slang. Verb. To be thrown from a horse. She fed me cheese and Diet Coke and let me sulk on her couch for a few hours. Sure, Kenny was the town golden boy, but Emmy's older brothers and I had not forgotten how he left Emmy for another girl at their senior homecoming.
Ooh.
I didn't have much of a family, but I had the Ryders, so I usually got dragged along when it was time to defend Emmy's honor, which happened more than one might think. When it came to Emmy, I was playing with fire, but I would happily walk into the flames for her, and I'd have a smile on my face the whole damn time. She asked for you, Teddy shrugged. Emmy never asks for anything. She just puts her head down and deals with things in the only way she knows how, by kicking shit around in her brain, but she asked for you. And that's it. So we would run into my review now. It cuts off like a little bit. I gave the book 4 stars because I really liked it. It was a really fun time. Common
cute.
phrases.
It sounds really cute.
It's really fun. Like I recommend common phrases. Little sister was used 25 times and sugar was used 48 times, but I don't know if all of those times were him calling her sugar because she does take her coffee without sugar.
Were there a lot of coffee dates
Not
or
really.
instances?
No,
in
not
this?
really. So I would say that most of those were him calling her sugar. And that was Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage, Rebel Blue Ranch Book 1.
And I like it. It's not so smutty. It's
not.
like just a few instances of some.
Yeah, and
Lovey-dovey
aside from
stuff.
him humping the mattress,
Oh my God.
they weren't that like. I didn't feel.
Wasn't like Leather and Lark where it's just like full on.
It was
detailed.
not. It was. It was not closed door. I will tell you that.
Oh, okay. But there were just a few.
Yeah, but it wasn't like nobody was like getting spit on or like
Penetrated by things that were not attached to your body.
penetrated by guns. Like there was nothing wild. It was just like cute and fun, and I really loved it. Clearly, because I continued on in the series, and I will continue on through the rest of the series. And I said to Kelly in the car, when we paused to go pick Macy up from practice, I think that I'm going to buy the books because I liked them so
Aw.
much.
You should.
Yeah. Okay, but that's it. I'm starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some pulled pork maybe upstairs.
Question mark?
We'll see
the
if
children and Adam didn't eat it all.
or if they actually made it. It could just be sitting on the counter.
It could be.
Otherwise, I have other stuff we can make
Yeah.
too.
So we're going to go eat. Like, follow, subscribe, leave comments, all that jazz. Everything's in the description if you are listening. Everything is in the description if you are
Yep.
watching. We'll see you all soon.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Bye, bitches.
Bye.